the greatest moment in my life.
Hey yo!
Hello.
How are we doing? Mr. Mags, you all good?
I am, yeah. Excited for my second week back on the chain wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, always good fun, mate. Always good fun. Ah, yes, indeed. It's a grotty, horrible, grey Monday in Gloucester, mate. It's a grotty, horrible
It's
day.
a lovely, sunny, bright day up here in the north.
Is it really?
It really is. I've literally just
jealous.
got back about 10 minutes ago from a lovely walk with the wife. Glorious sun. Yeah.
Oh dear, no, can't do that here, mate. It's been raining for a couple of days. It's absolutely gross out there.
Wow.
Yeah, but Gloucester's always kind of grey anyway, bud. You know, so
Well, I mean,
kind of
you
is what it
get
is, isn't
what
it?
you
You know?
deserve.
Well, I suppose. Oh dear. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Sai, and that feels so good to say that again, you know. A Radio Techers production. I am Sai, and with me, as always, is the torn pec to my holy fuck. Did you see that? Did you see that picture, Mags?
Yeah, I saw highlights of the match as well. Jesus Christ.
I've not seen the match, but I've seen the. Oh my god! I've seen the picture.
I've never been the biggest fan of Cody Rhodes. I like what he has done as a businessman, but the amount of respect I had for him for going through that match with that injury and not phoning it in, maybe doing the best match he's ever put on, certainly in WWE. Yeah, that was brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. Well played, Cody Rhodes, and I wish him a very, very speedy recovery.
I'm going to have to check it out, man. I'm going to have to check it out. The pedigree to my duff knee. And the weird thing with that is, the one that I always refer to as my good knee probably clicks and aches more than my bad knee now. So which way around is it? Who knows? A podcaster who looks like a completely different person if he takes his hat and his glasses off. It threw me when you sent me those pictures the other day, mate.
Okay.
Mr. Mags, glad to have you back once again, my friend.
It's a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. I've missed it, like I said last week on the show. And yeah, I sent a similar picture to Ray, and he called me Conan O'Brien.
Okay.
Which I was not amused at.
I was like, but basically to fill people in who are unaware, Magsy's not sending us like, naughty pics or anything like that. Magsy sent us a picture of him with his grandkids, and he had no glasses on, and he had no hat on, and obviously he had no headphones on.
I didn't have glasses on, did I? Yeah.
No, they're not surgically attached. Obviously, his headphones, they're not part of him, and it was surreal. It was like I was looking at where you are, and I could see that it was your house. And obviously, these are pictures of your grandkids. You're saying these are my grandkids, but I'm like, yeah, but that's not you holding them. You should call someone. There's like a different dude in your house.
Who is that?
Yeah.
I do have hair underneath this hat. It was quite like yours for a long time, where it's ponytailed at the back, but the wife cut it all off, and it's growing back. It's growing back slowly. And now it's kind of like at the Conan O'Brien stage, apparently.
Conan O'Brien. Should we have a quick look who is joining us early on this evening, Magsy?
Yes, we shall, and it's another packed house. Matt Willis coming in well early, 20-9, telling everybody that he's give blood. Okay, Matt, we all know how much of an angel you are. But he does say, what else could he ask for? A wonderful new edition of Chain Wrestling. Yep, it's absolutely amazing. Sharon in the chat, it's Monday night, you know what that means. Scottish Danny's here. Dan Griffin. Well, if it isn't the best part of a Monday, thank you very much, Dan.
Oh, mate, that's lovely. No, to be fair, Monday is the shittest day of the week, so we ain't got much competition from the other 22 and a half hours. True. But we'll still take it.
Conor McCabe, hello, sir. How are you? Apparently, Matt is saying that Boris has survived his confidence vote today, which, idiots being led by an idiot. So what can you say?
I mean, it was kind of predictable, I think, that he was gonna survive that vote, really. So.
Yeah, I mean, who wants that job? It's a poison chalice as it is. Let the idiot fall on his sword. Charlie in the chat, and I've got to give a special thanks to Charlie because for those of you who haven't listened to the audio version of last week's episode, definitely go and check it out because Sa and Charlie did a cool little intro talking about radio stations and pretty much every song Sa dubbed over a little bit. I won't spoil it, but it's absolutely hilarious, so definitely go and check that out. Mort and Fitch are both in the room. Fitch saying it's good to see my beautiful face, and Mort saying love his lordship. These two guys have been absolutely brilliant whilst I've been away. Really, really supportive, and it's good to see you both here. Mags O'Brien from Dan Griffin.
That works.
I've missed his wit. Mort saying he needs to see that photo. I may send it you in the DMs. It's definitely not getting put up in public.
I could just put it up now on the camera, couldn't I? To be fair. No, I'm joking.
You could. You absolutely could. Dan got turned away, tried to give it. Last time he tried to give some blood. All they kept saying is, whose blood is it? And why is it a bucket? Now, I thought you was going to say because it was 50% gravy. But yeah, we've got an absolutely jam-packed house today for Chain Wrestling, and I love to see it.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff, isn't it? It's awesome stuff. So then, Magsy, over the weekend, did you get up to anything?
No, nice relaxing. We didn't seem to have the bad weather that you've had, but yeah, got watched UFC. Spent some time with the grandkids, as you know. So yeah, it was a nice chilled weekend.
Cool. Obviously, the weather being bad around Gloucester affected a big sporting occasion as well. This weekend was the cheese rolling in Gloucester. If people are familiar with this.
I've seen the Netflix show about that. It's bloody brilliant.
It's insane. It's people. I mean, somebody broke their leg this year, and it's if people are unaware of the cheese roll in Gloucester, go and check it out on YouTube or on Netflix, as Magsy says. It's just one of those things where, you know how strange sports kind of just they become tradition and they just stick around for forever. That's what's happened with this, and it's basically a big block of cheese rolled down a fucking massive slope in Cooper's Hill in Brockworth, which is right by where I work and where my sister lives. It's only a couple of miles down the road, and everyone runs down the hill to catch the cheese. And if you catch the cheese, you're the winner, and you get to keep the cheese. And it attracts so many people. People from all over the world were there, to enter. The winner of the women's race was from Canada or the United States, maybe.
Oh wow!
No, I think she may have been a Korean descent American, something like that. But then there was somebody else who was taking part from Italy. And it's absolutely insane. And the local rugby club, the Brockworth Rugby Club, they line the bottom of the hill to stop people, because it is
going
dangerous.
Further. Yeah.
I mean, Cooper's Hill it's pretty much vertical in its angle.
I've seen the cheese rolling a few times, like through clips on YouTube, but actually watching that Netflix show about it. And like seeing the hill in all its glory, it's a steep climb, really, really like steep, and the way people just throw themselves down it, you essentially have to go limp and just hope you can barrel roll your way to the bottom without killing yourself. The show focused on that. This family who've traditionally been really good at the essentially winning. I think the brother has won it a few times, and his sister was trying to win it. I think it's like for the second or third time. They broke bones and ankles. Yeah, it's brutal, absolutely brutal.
It is. It's crazy. It's crazy. The guy who won the men's race this year has said that it's his last time he's going to do it. And this is his 23rd victory. Wow. 23 times. And people celebrate Ric Flair for his championships, man.
Ric Flair never got 23 big wheels of cheese.
No, he didn't. The thing is, it'd be a shame, wouldn't it? Because obviously cheese is going to go off. You kind of... You win like medals or anything like that, you want to keep them, but you can't keep 23. I mean, he hasn't won 23 years in succession, but you can't keep a 23-year-old piece of cheese, can you? As a reminder that you've done this. But you'd want something, wouldn't you?
I mean, to be fair, if I had one, that cheese wouldn't last a year.
Right.
It'd be gone before the next year. So certainly I could get through the wheel of cheese, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, it's pretty battered when it gets to the bottom as well.
Yeah, once you've scraped all the mud and the grass off.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing as well. I don't know what's worse, because if it's a really dry day, a really dry kind of dusty, hot day, then the turf is the hill is going to be really bad. You're going to be banging into it, and you're going to turn an ankle quite badly, and so on. It's going to be rock hard. It's bumpy as hell. It's just rough terrain, a damn near vertical slope. But if it chucks it down with rain, so in theory you're thinking, okay, it's not going to be rock hard. That seems sometimes even more dangerous, because then when you actually do manage to catch your footing once every, I don't know, 5 meters, because you are literally bouncing off this thing on the way down, you're just sliding everywhere. I mean, honestly, if you haven't seen the cheese rolling from Gloucester, from Cooper's Hill in Brockworth, just go and check it out. It is a sight to be seen. These people are batshit crazy, man.
They are. And they train for it for months and months as well. Yeah. Which, I mean, how do you train for throwing yourself down a hill? I don't know, but they do.
But I mean, people drive all over the place to go and see it. And it's not just, you'll see it in the pictures and that. It's not just people throwing themselves down a hill. They've got to put, sort of barricades up to stop the crowd getting in the way that go and watch. And, local people, rent out spaces in like their field and so on to park your car and make an absolute killing. And the local pubs is one of the best days of the year for them if the weather's good, because people go watch the cheese rolling and then go on the piss. Honestly, it's mental.
It's something I will have to experience, I think, going to a live cheese rolling.
Oh, maybe that's what we can do one day, Magsy. Make sure when you come down to Gloucester on that weekend, we'll go to the cheese roll and just go out for a few beers.
Yeah. I mean, I can't drink anymore, but cool.
Okay. Well, I'll drink enough for both of us, I'm sure. Shall we get rid of a couple of pieces of garbage into the old Chain Wrestling Hall of Lane, Mr. Mags?
We shall. Let me get the video up and boom.
Lame. What you got for us, bud?
So, man is actually quite apropos, because we've seemingly on a kind of a little bit of a Triple H journey with last week's episode and then this week's episode. So my Hall of Lame entrance is kind of smack dab in the middle of that. So where we left off last week, Triple H had got injured. We were kind of barrel rolling towards the invasion. And something happened in the build-up to the invasion that at the time was massively popular and was massively popular for quite a while after. But it got to the point where it became one of the most annoying things in wrestling. So, cast your mind back to August, like I said, deep in the middle of the invasion, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was essentially the captain of Team WCW. But he was getting more and more paranoid at the time, and he held kind of like a State of the Union meeting with all the WCW wrestlers and the ECW wrestlers in the ring, because he didn't feel that they trusted him. So he went round a few of the wrestlers and said, "Do you trust me?" Did it to, I think, Hugh Morris, Chavo Guerrero, Chuck Palumbo, asking, "Do you trust me?" And it gets to Taz, who was the commentator at the time, and Taz basically comes in the ring and says, "I'll say what a lot of these people won't say, that we don't like you and we don't trust you." And he ends up beating Taz down, and the rest of the ECW and WCW Alliance wrestlers leave Austin, essentially proving that they don't trust him and leave him high and dry. But in the middle of that promo, Austin started a catchphrase that took off a lot. He started chanting "what?" Now, it started very slowly, once or twice in that promo, but over the years, it became a fixture of wrestling. When Austin was doing it, it was very popular, the fans loved it. Austin was getting some really good reactions, and that's all well and good. but it started to kind of permeate its way into other people's promos, and it was like a way of fans taking over a show. There was a famous one with Carmella where she got flustered. I think Charlotte Flair has been flustered because of it. So yeah, for me this week, going into the Hall of Fame has to be the what chant.
Oh, I 100% agree, mate. 100% agree. Apparently, it started from a voicemail he left for Christian.
Okay.
He rang Christian up and was just talking I think he was driving somewhere and was just talking and leaving him a really long, stupid voicemail. And he was going, "I've just passed a Dunkin' Donuts. A what? A Dunkin' Donuts. A what? A Dunkin'." And that's what he was doing, like just to be a dick on the guy's answer phone. And Christian said, "That's quite funny. You should use it."
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it kind of developed from there. But I 100% agree. It was good when Austin was doing it. But then even when Austin wasn't around, and it hung around for so long, and it just ruined promos.
Yeah.
You know, some really
Absolutely.
big moments in wrestling kind of had to either overcome that what chant or were ruined by the what chant.
Yeah, if you weren't a wrestler who was 100% confident with your character, that could have easily thrown you off. There have been a few talents who have been able to use it to their advantage. Alexa Bliss was superb at kind of like turning the what chant into a talking point. Mr. McMahon, when he was talking about Bret Hart, the fans started a what chant up, and he turned it on them saying, "If you're an idiot from Hartford, say what," and then they did, and they proved his point. And then the best one and the most infamous one was Undertaker when he said, "Say what if you like to sleep with your sister," and like you could hear the fans going, "What? No, we'll let that one down." But yeah, the what chant was amazing at the time, was quite funny for a few years afterwards, and then got ridiculous and became a ruiner of promos.
Yeah. And you're right to chuck it in the Hall of Fame. It deserves its spot. Again, something that was ruined by being overdone. So yeah, 100%. Joining it, Magsy. Joining it. It will surprise absolutely nobody that I'm going to go to WCW. Ruined. Yeah. Okay, Sharon. Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll get on with that first before I chuck my Hall of Fame entry in. Okay. How do you say the word ruined?
Ruined.
Right.
Ruined.
There's an I in it. Ruined. Yeah. That's how I pronounce it. Ruined. Right.
Okay.
Everyone in my house mocks me because apparently I overemphasize. I go ruined. Apparently I overemphasize the I at the end. So all the kids laugh.
The I at the end?
Yeah, like, well, not at the end. It's like, towards the end, isn't it? It's one letter away from the end.
Of ruin.
Yeah. And the same for ruined. It's like,
in the middle.
Yeah. They all, my wife and my kids for years have just mocked me. Every time I say, that's going to be ruined, they're like, "Oh, ruined. And it hurts me, man. It upsets me.
How do they say it?
Do you know what? I don't know. No, I
That
haven't put on the
ruined.
spot. Well, I'll tell you how they say it. They literally say it in that voice, mocking me now. They don't say ruined properly anymore. They say it mocking me.
Wow.
Just
that's
every opportunity.
Evil.
That's
evil.
bad, isn't it? I'm tormented, mate, in my own home.
So ruined is your house's what chant?
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, Sharon there in the chat saying it's like Stewie from Family Guy. I say it like Stewie from Family Guy.
Like say whip, say cool whip.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And sometimes I can hear it.
Ruined.
Sometimes I can hear it. It's just
ruined. Ruined.
But it's just, don't get me wrong. It's funny because I don't realise I've done it, and then even Charlie, the youngest, they'll jump straight on it and they'll say it. It's yeah. There we go.
Cool whip.
Cool whip.
Ruined.
We've ruined this segment now.
I'm going to mock you incessantly for that now.
Brilliant. So not only am I going to get it at home, I'm going to get it live on Chain Wrestling as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ruined. I've ruined Chain Wrestling now. Oh dear. Okay. Hall of Fame from me this week. WCW 1996. A very good time in wrestling. A very good time in wrestling. The NWO's kicking off. We got Hollywood Hogan. The Crow Sting storyline is starting to find its way and form and so on. Really good time for wrestling. WCW decided, we're going to capitalize on something outside of wrestling that is quite popular and try and get more eyes onto our product. So they looked at a video game entitled Mortal Kombat, looked at a character called Sub-Zero and thought, that's a bloody good idea. But guess what, Max? It was not. They were very much mistaken. What have you done to my name? At SJP Words ruined for the benefit of everyone on the audio version. Fantastic. Oh, man. Yes, this individual was called Glazier. And he was dressed up like the guy from Mortal Kombat, Sub-Zero. But he was legit a martial artist as well. He could literally handle himself. But it wasn't just that. It was the fact that the gimmick given to him. We had all these promotional vignettes and basically it created excitement around the character because there was a lot of money spent on these vignettes, a lot of money spent on these little video clips and trailers. And then when the guy actually arrived and had his first match, there was a crazy amount of money spent on his entrance, and the entrance was spectacular. You had all the snow falling, you had the laser lights going off, his ring gear and so on as well. The issue was, though, that cost $35,000 a pop.
Jesus.
Okay. There's also stuff you can read elsewhere about $500,000 being spent to set it up initially, and then $35,000 a pop. But that part of it, I can't find anywhere properly confirmed. But the $35,000 an entrance, I had confirmed from a few other places. Yeah. So Glacier, it just. And what's this one? Did you just call him Glazier, Si? He was like Sub-Zero, not a bloody window installer. Well, it's probably where he's gone now to be a window installer, to be fair.
15 years later, he bought Manchester United.
Yeah, that's right. But this guy comes to the ring, and right up to this moment, it still looks cool. And then the bell rings for them to start the match. They have to wait for 2 minutes for him to take all the gear off. Because this whole get-up is so big, and it takes bloody ages to get all this stuff off. And then they start actually wrestling, and I say wrestling in the loosest of terms. He's there doing his martial arts and doing certain routines and poses and so on. And he wins a couple of matches, but honestly, as soon as the bell started to ring and the match began, everyone just realised how lame this was. All the money WCW threw at this character, Glacier, it was wasted. The entrance lasted, I think, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. So straight away, after all the money spent in the vignettes and the build-up, they dropped him. They dropped the entrance to him just now being a martial arts guy. And believe it or not, he even hung around for another couple of years. And I think he's still around in WCW kind of like 99-ish, late 99 maybe. Just as some guy who does a bit of martial arts named Glacier. But it was dire, mate. So that's my entrant into the Hall of Fame this week. The potential to be brilliant. And again, coining the phrase, I suppose, from Bruce Pritchard. And then that bloody bell out to ring. Not a good look, pal. Not a good look.
No, and fair play to the guy. He tried to make it work. Like you said, he was he was genuinely an expert at martial arts. But yeah, it was typical of WCW trying to cash in on mainstream. Sometimes it worked. A lot of the time, it absolutely did not. I believe, and I think Mort said it in the chat, that he was in the AEW Battle Royal as well, the first one.
Yep.
So fair play on him to have made a career out of the gimmick, but yeah, a very worthy entrance into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, he's banging around now doing signings and so on. These online signings that people do via Facebook Lives and all that sort of stuff. And then like the conventions as well. So he's making a few quid out of it still. So fair play to the guy. And obviously, like you said, appeared in AEW as well, which is, good luck to him. But after all that build up and all that money, yeah.
I think he's
all a lame worthy.
Oh, definitely. But I think his career's kind of it's done a full 180 where he's gone from being cringy to now being cool again, because that's how wrestling works. It's all a cycle. So fair play to him, but you're right. This definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Lame. It was just never going to work.
No, you're right. You're right. Shall we have a quick pop into the chat again, Magsy, before we go have a little look at our non-wrestling topic?
Yeah, so Matt Willis seems to think that don't pronounce the R. SAR should be a T-shirt. Makes a good point there. Cameron saying, don't ruin it, SAR. I'm still watching 1995.
That's it's going to be a T-shirt.
Scottish Danny even picking you up on Glazier. If Scottish Danny is mocking you, know you've said something wrong.
Oh, man.
Matt said, as a video game journalist with credentials, this character offends me. Glacier deserves to be in the Hall of Lame. Very, very true. Dan, did you call him Glacier, sir? He was like Sub-Zero, not a bloody window installer. I will not have this SAR bullying on. I will not have it. Sorry, Mo.
Thanks,
it
mate.
happens on a weekly basis, so you're about 46 weeks late to start defending
But
him.
I appreciate it, mate. I really do. Thank you.
Dan Griffin says Glacier needs to be a one-man's meet episode topic at Scottish Danny. And Danny's saying, I'm shocked Tony Khan hasn't signed him as a manager. I wouldn't be actually surprised if he's not working some sort of backstage spot. Glacier's entrance and vignettes were the best bit about him. Character built to sell action figures that were never made. And yep, typical WCW.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly WCW, isn't it? In a nutshell, right there.
Yeah, there was a plan there. You can tell that there was a plan there, but it shit the bed and nothing come of it. Mort saying, yeah, doesn't he have a hand in the nightmare factory? Yeah, I thought he'd be the kind of person who would be good at training with his martial arts expertise. Scottish Danny saying something, I'm a little bit perturbed by this, saying Gangrel went from cringer to cool. I don't think Gangrel has ever been cringer. And Gangrel has always been awesome.
His music is the best bit about him. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Gangrel himself, but his music that was fantastic, wasn't it? The Brood music.
Yeah, I agree. I think Gangrel has always been cool.
Yeah. Vampires are cool.
Yeah. Dan Griffin agrees with me.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, vampires are cool, man.
And for those who need to know about the football, Croatia and France drew 1 apiece.
Okay. Let's jump across to Twitter and a couple via WhatsApp for our non-wrestling topic this week. This week we asked, if you could be turned into any animal at all, what would be the best and what would be the worst? And we got some quite interesting responses, and the reasons behind some of these responses are very interesting as well. It was kind of inspired by a recording that I did with Dan Griffin for the Doctor Who pod, and you can see the image there on the screen via our Twitter and so on. There was
Dan and Sa.
Yeah, that's it. That's us recording. Yeah, that's us recording, mate. What you can't see is the microphone's dangling down from above. You know, little earbuds in, and we're recording away. Yeah, that's my ginger beer. You can see it. No, these are images here, and people would have seen it on our Twitter and Facebook and so on as well. So these people were turned into animals as a punishment in this episode of Doctor Who. So it just kind of got me thinking. I put it forward to Mags, and he said, "Yeah, let's see what we get." So that's kind of where it stemmed from, really. And speaking of Dan Griffin and the Doctor Who pod, that's where we will start, Magsy. We have here from Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter. He says, "The best would be to be a cat. Do whatever the fuck you want, from sleeping all day up to and including destruction of property, and still be loved and revered. Worst, a dung beetle who wants to roll in shit all day." Okay, yeah, fair enough. I mean, if you're a dung beetle, surely you enjoy rolling around in shit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, horses for courses. If you were a dung beetle, that'd be the best thing ever. If you had a big old pile of shit. So I think Dan's judging it as a human and not as if he was a dung beetle.
Yeah, but to be fair, we didn't actually put out specific criteria, did we? We just kind of
no. Okay, that's fair.
Left it quite vague. So yeah, but yeah, I think as a dung beetle, you'd quite like having a big old bit of chod to roll around in, wouldn't you? So yeah, best as a cat, do whatever you want, sleep all day, and destroy property and still be loved. Yeah, I can testify with that. You know, we've got 4 cats, and as many people know, the one of them is a bloody idiot. He trashes the place.
Who now sleeps on his back.
Yes, he's taken to sleeping on his back, which is a picture I'll have to tweet out so everyone can see that as well. But yeah, he trashes the place, wrecks things, and so on. And yeah, and he's pretty nasty to me unless he wants food. But I still pick him up and try and give him a cuddle. So,
Mort with a great point. Also, if you're a cat, you could lick yourself.
wouldn't have to leave the house, mate.
Exactly. And that's the real reason that Dan wants to be a cat.
Ah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. MGB Graham at MGB Graham on Twitter. He says here, a cat as well. I'll take a cat because you have 9 lives. Get to eat plenty and sleep 16 hours a day. And you don't have to give a shit about anything. Sounds good to me. Fair enough. Again, I can back that.
It seems to be a running theme where people don't want to give a shit about anything. Just get away with blue murder.
Yeah. And then just sleep. Seems to be the...
Win-win.
Yeah, I guess, trash the place and kip. Fair enough. At Good Bad Wrestle here, which I'm guessing is Graham as well. Hashtag bad cop animal. A sloth. It would take freaking ages to get anywhere and you'd always be tired. Okay. I mean, a sloth always tired.
Kind of like a cat, you can sleep as long as you want.
Aren't they called a sloth just because it takes them so long and they are lazy and so on? But I don't know if they're actually tired, are they?
Yeah, they sleep a hell of a lot. They just have very low metabolisms.
Right,
so
okay.
I remember watching, I think it was a David Attenborough show, but if one of the babies fall from the mum's sloth and the mum goes down to collect the baby from the floor, she wouldn't have the energy to get back up in the trees, so they'd end up both dying. So they just have to let the baby die, essentially.
Fucking hell, Max.
Yeah.
Way to kill the mood.
I think it's because the food that they eat is so low in nutrients that's just how their life is. Just slow and ambling.
Plus, my diet's not really full of nutrients, to be fair.
Plus, they piss and shit all over themselves.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
It does sound like some people on a night out in Gloucester, to be fair.
This took a dark turn, Scottish Danny, and they were hilarious in Zootopia. So there is that. If you like a cartoon version of a sloth, they'll be absolutely fine. Yeah, and Fitch on one of the episodes of their podcast reckoned he couldn't beat up a sloth. I mean, you could absolutely beat a sloth up.
Haven't they got massive claws though, like huge, long,
because they use them to grip the branches to move about.
Yeah,
but
so
by the time they swung, but they can't swing with any pace. You'd be able to outwit a sloth, surely.
Okay, but I'm thinking more maybe as you're fighting a motivated sloth, because if the sloth is in a fight, if it's got to that point where you're fighting a sloth, surely the sloth is motivated to have a scrap,
Yeah, but where would it get the energy from? It can't have the energy to go and collect its newborn baby from the rainforest floor. Just a swift boot, and that sloth is done for.
A swift boot, and you've won the scrap with a motivated sloth. Okay, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Good Cop, Bad Cop on Twitter also sent us a article here, and I think it's a joke website. He explains, but we've got an image here of a man pretending to be a cow in a milking competition and gets jacked off for hours.
And of course, that guy was from Texas. Of course he was.
I didn't. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. Says a lot. That. We'll move on. I have one here via WhatsApp from my sister, and she doesn't really dive into much details, but she says, the best animal surely has to be a pig. Also, worst animal is a pig. And I said, well, why is that? And she said, because they are ace, but also not. I'm assuming my sister had been drinking again. So
I mean, there's not a lot of sense in that, but I can see thinking why they're the best animal. I've always wanted a pet pig, but Mrs. Mags will never let me get one. But But yeah, best and worst. I don't know if that could be a thing, but thanks for taking part.
A pet pig would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because they're not actually dirty animals, are they? They're quite clean animals.
Well, I mean, they do live in stars, and there is
yeah,
the term pig star for when something is a tip.
Yeah, no, I get that, but they live in sties because they're put there. Do you know what I mean? If they're
Well,
not,
no, they would make the mud slide themselves.
You're missing my point. They're not dirty animals as such, are they? They're not like a sloth shitting and pissing all over itself and then just lying in it. A pig will go and clean itself and stuff.
They may do. You may be right. They do look like dirty animals to me, though.
Okay. Cam on Twitter at CamGriff92.
Jesus.
I read this wrong the first time. I read this as best has to be a kimono dragon, but that's like a dressing gown, isn't
it? just comfy, sat on the settee with a pipe and slippers, a kimono dragon. Brilliant.
Yeah. He actually wrote Komodo dragon because they are absolute beasts. The worst is a naked mole rat. Unfortunately, reminds me of myself getting out the shower.
So yeah, I remember again seeing on a David Attenborough show Komodo dragon killing, I think it was a wildebeest, and all it did was it just nipped the ankle of the wildebeest, but their saliva is so venomous that was enough to kill the wildebeest. But it took like 3 days, and they just followed this wildebeest till it essentially just gave up the ghost and died, and then they ate the wildebeest. But yeah, they are pretty brutal animals.
That's not just brutal. That's like really tenacious and planning ahead and so on, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm going to be hungry in about 3 days. Let me just kill this.
Fancy a bit of wildebeest in 3 days, love. Bit of wildebeest pie or something, Steve-O on Twitter at Total Steve-O. He says, in the words of Carl Pilkington, worst, a wasp, as everyone wants to kill you. Best, the king of the jungle, a lion, no one will mess with you. And he says, personally, he's obsessed with giant snakes. So RB, a giant python, one of the few animals at London Zoo everyone is scared of. What are your thoughts on snakes, Magsy? I'm not a massive fan, if I'm being honest.
Jan almost wants like the python. Yeah, I mean, you can't not be terrified of that. But normal size snakes, I'd be weary, but I'm not like definitely afraid of them.
What's a normal size snake?
Well, like less than 10 foot.
Less than 10 foot is a normal snake. So if a snake is over 10 foot, it's an abnormal snake, is it?
It's very abnormal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've had my picture taken with like a snake wrapped around me and stuff like that.
That was for a special website, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Snakehub.com.
Snake, yeah. A wasp as well. Everyone wants to kill you. I mean, that's true. What is the point in wasps? What do they actually do?
Charlie, cover your ears. Wasps are cunts. I hate wasps.
Whoa.
They are the twat of the animal world, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's absolutely no benefit to them. I mean, obviously they pollinate stuff, I get that, but they're pricks. They're just bad-tempered dickheads.
Mm. Yeah.
And they kill bees as well.
Oh, see, I like bees.
I like bees. Yeah. But
there must be a reason for them to exist. It's like, it's like spiders. They eat flies, don't they? And stuff like that. Now, I'm not a fan of spiders, but I appreciate there's a reason for their existence. What is the purpose of a wasp? What's the fucking point in a wasp?
Yeah, they do pollinate stuff. They do go from flower to flower and pollinate. So
right. So they really like a bee.
Yeah, they don't make honey in the same way as a bee does. But yeah, they do pollinate stuff because they have to eat, so they still eat nectar.
So what's again though? What is the point? Because bees do that. Why don't wasps just be bees?
Maybe they had an argument back in the day, and they like two warring families.
The wasps are like a rebellion force or something.
Yeah,
It's like a big yellow and black civil
the
war.
wasps are the northerners, and the bees are the southerners.
So that would make the wasps kind of your end of the country.
Cunts, yeah, the twats.
That's it. Now, every time I see a wasp or a bee, I'm gonna be like, man, that's like a yellow and black civil war that's been waging on for like hundreds of years between these two. But honestly,
like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you can see my point though, can't you? If a bee pollinates things, what's the point in a wasp? Why is it even? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't serve. It serves no purpose to us.
Well, yeah, it does, because they still pollinate stuff that we use.
Yeah, but the bees can do it as well, can't they? So what's the point? That's the thing I'm trying to say. And we get honey from bees, and bees are nice.
Yeah, but it's not only bees that pollinate. Lots of flying insects and birds pollinate stuff. That's not just the job. It's not. They haven't come in like a bunch of Polish people to do the job cheaper and more efficient than bees.
Well, there you go. Then. If wasps, if they were more efficient than bees at pollinating stuff, I could understand their purpose because they're more efficient, right? But if they do the same job as bees, then what is the point? Because we get honey from bees as well, and bees are famously pollinate stuff well. So what is the point?
I am on the side of you. I don't think that wasps should be a thing. They're evil, they're bad-tempered, but they do. It's not like they haven't stolen the bees' job. They're not coming undercutting them. They're not.
That's brilliant.
They're not like the Parkies of the Flying Kingdom, where they promise to tarmac your drive and just run off with your $5,000.
No, that's the pigeons. The pigeons are that. Oh man, that's brilliant as well. I agree. Wasps shouldn't be a thing. Yeah, that's it. They should not exist.
They definitely shouldn't. They're arseholes.
Nah. We have a couple more that are via WhatsApp, Magsy, and then I think we are done for the day.
You've missed.
Oh, have I missed one?
Rob.
Have I missed
You've
one?
missed
I have.
UTT Rob.
Can you read that one out then? It looks like I haven't snatched that one onto my phone.
I can. So Rob at UTT Rob says the best is an otter, relatively smart. I mean, what a way to start. That these are the best, and then negs them straight away. Like, they're relatively smart, not the smartest, but smart enough.
They're above average.
Yeah, they use tools. So much hair that it can't get wet. Rarely gets preyed upon and pisses around in the water all day. That sounds like a really good laugh, actually. The worst is a dog. Think about where they lick and that they are completely dependent on humans. And Chris Hamilton makes a good point. My dog does what the fuck he wants because he's living the dream. Which, yeah, that sounds absolutely right.
Yeah, fair enough. I suppose Mill Chris's dog is kind of like how we've described the cat then.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, fair enough. His dog's called Roman, I think, isn't he? There's some pictures of him on Twitter and that. He's a big old beast. Great dog he is. Yeah, fair play. Okay. We get another mention of dog here, actually, on WhatsApp from Charlie, if she is still listening. And after you using the C word more than once, I kind of hope not. And
I did warn to cover ears.
The first time?
Just not the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th.
That's it. Charlie says, dog or cat, because you can just sleep all day. And I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. And she didn't really have one for a bad one. But yeah, again, it comes back to sleep. And Charlie does like her bed. Charlie does like to sleep. She will, especially if there's a wrestling pay-per-view on and she's been up watching it, we might not see Charlie till tea time the following day. 4 or 5 o'clock, we might hear a bit of noise from her bedroom. But yeah, she will sleep all day, mate. It's shocking. She's a sloth.
Oh, good Lord. I hope she doesn't shit and piss it all down herself.
No, she does not. She does not. She's old enough now to practice self-control. Yeah, but she does like her sleep, mate. She really does like her sleep. And to finish off then, again, via WhatsApp, Magsy, Mr. Matt Willis, he says here, best and worst animals, it would depend on the country you're in. As some animals are.
He just can't answer a question, can he? He always has to caveat things like. Just. Matt, I love you.
It would depend on the country you're in, as some animals are revered and worshipped, like the cat in ancient Egypt. I can understand that, I suppose. You know, personally though, the best animal to be turned into, given the choice, has to be the falcon, winged lord of the skies. Imagine being able to glide around on the air currents all day, top of the avian food chain, and being respected. Fair enough, yeah, I can get that.
Yeah, I mean, seagulls can also glide around on the current all day, I suppose. But yeah, falcon is a great pick.
And I bet seagulls get more chips
Yeah.
than a falcon. You don't see many falcons at Western, do you? You know?
That's very, very true.
Liv there saying in the chat, sorry, Sharon there saying, Liv says the best is a goat. My middle daughter, Liv, is obsessed with goats. When we used to go on holiday and take the dog to the kennels, there was a couple of goats who lived on the pit where the dog would go into the kennels, and she would just be obsessed with these goats. And she's constantly asking, can we get goats for the garden? The answer is always no. It's not going to happen. But she just, and this is like she can move out and get her own house and do it herself, can't she? Honestly, you know, I didn't want any of the animals we got, and now I'm attached to them all. I'm not going to expand even more. I don't want goats in the garden.
Yeah, at least the goat will be useful with milk and goat's cheese, and then
see, that sounds like work.
Goat meat.
Goat meat. Yeah, that's right. You have goat curry, can't you?
You can. It's delicious.
Okay. Oh. Yeah, but again, though, I've seen something that says that goats are actually quite high maintenance.
Like, what, hard to keep? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't mean high maintenance as in, like, you know, they sulk all the time.
Fucking hell, that goat's at it again. Jesus Christ. I'd always giving it that meh.
Yeah, getting arsey with you when you don't tax back quick enough. I don't mean that kind of high maintenance.
See, maybe that's where it comes from. Oh, you're getting on my goat.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, Matt Willis does also say, worst animal has to be a rat. He says he has a psychological fear of the damn things, and if he was to be one, that would be unbearable. This is him admitting a genuine fear, he says. Would appreciate you guys not mocking that. Okay. We won't.
We're definitely probably going to mock the fact that you're scared of a rat. They're like that big. They're like that big.
Is that on its hind legs? Is it? Because you're going that way.
Yeah, well, that big. See, if I did it like that though, you can't see.
Well, no, but do that way then.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Front calves.
Have you front calves? Yeah. Have you forgotten how wrists work?
and also calves and shins.
Yeah. What was that? Oh, you were messaging me about your tattoos, weren't you? We were talking on, and you said about tattoos on. You're going to have to say it because I laugh too much.
Yeah, so we were talking about tattoos, and someone said you had lovely calves. Is that right? So I said, oh, well, I've got like song lyrics wrote on my legs, but on the front calves, and I have no idea why I said front calves. Not the slightest clue, because I straight to it. Front calves? Don't you mean shins? And I'm like,
yeah,
I meant fucking shins. Yeah,
he's got back calves and front calves. His foot can go in all different directions.
It spins around in a circle.
That's it. Like one of those old action figures, like, you know, front calves.
See, there, you're getting a lot of grief about not wanting any goats. Sharon saying we need some goats. Imagine the free milk. Goat meat is tasty. They'll cut your grass as well. Will those sassy goats? Fitch will be in the garden dressed as a goat, a la the guy in Texas.
Oh, man. Just randomly wanting to get milked.
Like the bloke to get meh, just as a goat. Jesus Christ.
Oh, again, that's took a bit of a dark turn, hasn't it? Thank you so much to everyone who sent in responses to our non-wrestling topic again this week. It's always hugely appreciated, whether that was via Twitter, WhatsApp, however you got in touch. As me and Magsy say all the time, this show wouldn't exist if it weren't for you. So thank you so much for that.
Yep, absolutely.
I suppose then, Mags, if we haven't got anything else in the chat to catch up with, we should be getting on and talking a bit of wrestling, shouldn't we?
You don't want to find out what animals I would want to be.
Well, oh yeah, suppose. Go on then.
Arsehole. Absolute
Do you know what I've
arsehole.
not? Do you know what I've not done this week, mate? Do you know what I've not done?
You've not done your animal.
I've not got a format, and that's why I missed that out. Because on my format, on my running order for the show, it would say non-wrestling topic Twitter, then non-wrestling topic Cy and Mags, and I've not got it up, so I didn't see it.
See, so I come back and it all goes to shit.
It does.
It
I'm
all
more
goes
relaxed, man. I ain't got trials.
Yeah, because I'll carry you on my back.
Exactly. With your super strong front calves.
I wish I didn't admit things on the show because it's out there now in the ether and I could never take it back. Some really good picks for best animals. I think I would have to agree that the best animal has to be a pet animal because they are absolutely doted on and get they get spoiled. So I'm going to go with dog. I'm going to go against Robbie. He's looked at it as a human being a dog. I'm looking at it as a dog being a dog. The life of a dog. You get to lick yourself, which would be that just the dream.
It's funny how often we've come back to that.
No, but it just feels like it would be a cool thing to do to just be able to lick yourself. You get fed, you get watered, and you get to just have the time of your life chasing a ball or a stick across a field, and they just always look so happy. Like everything is the best thing in the world. And the one thing that they do is with a dog, it's unconditional love. They absolutely adore their owners or their masters. So yeah, I think the best would be a dog for me. And the worst, another one that's been mentioned, wasps, because they're cunts.
Oh my god. They are that indeed. They are that indeed. Yes, I think wasp would be probably my negative. I'm intrigued by Matt Willis saying about the falcon and the aspect of being able to fly. That intrigues me. Speaking of Matt Willis saying there he's got to call it a night. Take care. You'll catch the audio version Matt. On Wednesday.
Have a good one.
Cheers, Matt. I'll speak to you later, mate. Yeah, the idea of flying does, on one hand, intrigue me, but on the other hand, I'm scared of heights, so I probably wouldn't go very high.
So you intrigued by the thought of flying, but only about a foot off the ground.
Well, no, I go a bit higher. I'm 6 foot tall now, so I'm okay with that height. You know.
Yeah, but that's only because your feet are on the floor. If your whole body was 6 foot off the ground, I think you would be a bit more worried.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of being up in the air or anything, mate. But yeah, I don't know. The idea of flying intrigues me, but it also scares me at the same time. So,
the ground falcon.
The ground falcon. That sounds like a really bad action film, doesn't it? You know, one of the ones that Stallone or Schwarzenegger made in the 80s that never quite caught on.
Yeah, the ground falcon. Jesus Christ. Or Sa would be a flying fish.
Okay, they like come out the water and just literally glide through the air for a bit, don't they? And then land back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be right. Being a fish would be quite cool.
Until you get ate by a shark.
Well, yeah, okay, but I mean, at the same time, any animal has got potential of being hurt or killed in some way, haven't they? So you could apply that. Well, I suppose.
Where to take that, dark Sa?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I think a negative animal, an animal that would really suck, would be a snail.
Or a slug.
Yeah.
I mean, at least a snail's got a house. It can like.
Yeah, I suppose.
A slug is just what are they? What are they for? They're like a homeless snail, aren't they?
Yeah. What are they for? They're like the wasps of the ground. What's the point?
Yeah, I mean,
they don't even pollinate stuff.
No, they just leave trails everywhere, and then when you stand on them with no shoes on, they get all squeezed in between your toes. Yeah.
Do you know what's worse than standing on a slug with no shoes on?
Standing on one with socks on.
Yeah. Oh, mate, that is the worst. Standing on a big fat slug with socks on, because it still goes squishy between your toes, but it's almost like it's been pushed through a sieve beforehand.
Oh, Jesus.
What?
And then when you lift your foot up and you see all the yellow like guts
Oh,
everywhere,
it's not good.
and it's got one of its eyes like, out on its stalk.
Just like, just full of pain looking at you like, ah.
Yeah, I hate slugs. Slugs
But
are
snails,
useless.
snails, it's where, bit of rain and snails just come piling out of our hedge across our driveway. So you go walk out in the garden or whatever, or try and, go put the bins out. It's just
It's
constant.
just crunch, crunch,
Oh,
crunch.
Yeah,
Sa just going out like the giant, just destroying snails everywhere.
Yeah. And we had a pet snail for a while. Well, Charlie had a pet snail for a while. Gracie was his name. And it was like one of these African land snails.
Okay.
And it was literally like, it was like the size of a 5p. Its shell was like the size of a 5p when we got it. And then by the time it finally died, it was, I kid you not, mate, it was huge. I got a picture of it, and it's longer than an ordinary pen that I've got on the next to it for size. It was massive. It was huge.
It sounds like a mutant.
It was massive, mate. It was massive. But the problem is, you'd be sat there at night watching the telly or whatever, and it'd be, it in the dark or whatever, watching something a bit creepy, and you start hearing this like noise in the back room. And I'd get up and I'd be looking around. I'd be like, what the hell is that? I'd be checking the door. I'd be making sure the windows are shut. What is that noise? It would turn out it was the snail doing laps of his tank. And its massive shell, that was the size of my fist, was just dragging across the glass of the tank.
Oh, wow.
But it was so slow and methodical. Honestly, this snail scared the shit out of me one night. It was terrifying.
No. I think once it got to a certain size, that would be a out in the garden snail. See you later.
Sharon in the chat did say that Liv is heaving with us talking about snails and slugs. She is the other way to Charlie. My youngest is snail obsessed. She loves them. Even now, she'll run out into the garden to see the little baby snails when they come out in the rain. She loves snails. Whereas Liv is the other way. She freaking despises them. Like, these are her. She ain't scared
Her
of snakes.
mortal enemy.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. She's not scared of snakes. She's not scared of spiders. She's not bothered by anything. But a snail freaks her out, makes her a wretch, all sorts, mate.
Wow.
Yeah. Got a little bit sidetracked then, didn't we?
We did. We'll quickly go through this chat though. But Dan saying that slugs are little dollops of effing useless slam. Totally agree. Cameron agreeing with me, saying that they're just homeless snails. And Mort saying Fitch reminds him of a slug. Pretty mean there. Dan, I once stood on a frog with no shoes.
Oh, have you heard a frog scream?
No. Do they scream?
Oh, do they ever, mate? If a cat catches a frog...
Ah!
Yeah, no, but like higher, mate. Higher pitched. Like proper...
I can't go higher than that.
Like real hot, really high pitched screams. I don't know if you'll be able to find it online if you Google it or whatever. But yeah, we had one got stuck in like the wire mesh at my nan's house, and I had to get it out, and it was literally screaming. And then if you ever get a cat that catches a frog, they scream, mate. So really high pitched scream. It's weird.
I'll look that up. Dan Griffin saying snail stampede at Shares Sa. Yeah. I can just imagine you going out of a morning just crunching the snails on purpose.
No, I've got to be really careful now. I've effectively got to walk on tiptoe looking down to avoid them because I don't want to stand on the snails.
Oh, well, then your other podcast partner, Scottish Danny, says he loves snails, so there you go. You didn't want to upset him. Fitch replying to Mort, saying that he reminds him of a word that I can't say because I've been told off.
You've used up your C-word quota for a month on this show, I think.
Cam wants to know if you rolled your wheel of cheese over the snails.
No, I do not, because that would ruin the snail and the cheese.
That's it. Yeah, that's just two wrongs don't make a right.
No, they don't.
I have no idea why that drew the image to me of Sa destroying Smurfs.
Okay.
The snails and
annoying.
Smurfs. Yeah, snails and Smurfs aren't. I wouldn't say they go together. They don't remind me of each other.
Well, no, they look pretty different. One's a little blue dude with a white hat on, and the other one's a fucking
a slug with
snail.
A slug with a flat.
Well, I suppose they're similar sizes, isn't they? A Smurf and a.
I suppose they are. Mort says, we used to keep pet snails and my sister put nail varnish on their shells so she knew who was who, not realising she was slowly poisoning them.
Oh,
Wow.
mate, look at wow, that was like combined sympathy for the snails then.
It was. And where I live has snail in the village from Fitch. Yeah, I've heard a frog scream when I caught one. It's got awful. I've never
Yeah.
even thought that they could scream. Fitch, to be honest, Dan, I've never seen a frog with shoes on. I knew you would be the C word to pop up with that joke there, Fitch, and ruined.
I said it again, didn't I?
Yes,
It would
you
ruin
did.
the cheese. So
It would.
it would. Let's talk some wrestling, Mags.
Let's do it.
Let's get ready to rumble!
And Rumble we shall, because winning the poll this week was the 2002 Royal Rumble. I have quite strong memories of this that actually turned out to be quite wrong. So
Mandela effect, maybe.
yeah, I mean, we'll start off, shall we, with the 7th of January Monday Night Raw, when Triple H makes his return from being out for 7.5, 8 months or whatever. It's Madison Square Garden. He comes out. He's basically in the main event slot of the show. The
Yep.
response when his music hits is huge. The response when he walks out is huge. It's a real moment. You know, I remember watching this on, I think, a Thursday night. I think Raw was repeated on a Thursday night on Sky at 9 o'clock ish, and that's when I'd watch it. And just thinking, wow, that crowd is insane. This is where my mind played tricks on me, though, because he starts, obviously enters the Royal Rumble and so on. And then Kurt Angle comes out and they have a bit of a brawl and Triple H overcomes Angle and that's the Monday Night Raw goes off the air. I could have sworn the Big Show came out.
What, to rumble with Triple H?
Yeah, I was adamant, sat down, waiting for the Big Show to come out. And the Big Show then took a pedigree from Triple H on the Madison Square Garden Raw when Triple H returned from injury. So when Angle's music hit, I was like, oh, okay. Well, perhaps a couple of them come out then. And the show went off the air, and I was like, that's not right. That's not right at all. But obviously it was right because they were there with the cameras, weren't they? So.
And Scottish Daddy saying that was on the SmackDown.
The following SmackDown, Scottish Danny. And there we go. Wrestling Encyclopedia helps me out again. Thank you very much, Danny.
So you were right, just a couple of days out.
Yeah, okay. But it was so weird because for me, sat there watching that back today, that was trippy as hell because I was expecting the Big Show. And then Kurt Angle came out and then the show went off the air and I was like, oh. And it's one of those things where I remembered it so vividly, but then what I watched back wasn't what I remembered. Honestly, it spanned me out, mate. It made my head, completely trip me up.
Well, so you need to go and watch that SmackDown then, just to get your memory back in check.
Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah, thank you, Scottish Danny. It's very helpful, mate. I'll check that out later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, the 2002 Royal Rumble comes from Atlanta, Georgia. And we're told it's sold out with, I think, 16,500 people were in the crowd or something in that region, Magsy. And again, my mind kind of made me believe that this was one of the most predictable Royal Rumbles in history. That's the way I always looked back on it with. Always thinking, okay, Triple H comes back from injury. He's a big star. He wins the Rumble, goes to WrestleMania. That's kind of how, in my head, I remember this. Watching it back, yeah, it still felt that way. But it didn't seem as clean-cut as I remembered.
Yeah, I can kind of get what you're saying there. I think in this era, there was always one or maybe two people who were almost tacked on to win the Rumble. That's who the storyline revolved around, with Triple H coming back as a babyface. It was almost destiny that he won this Royal Rumble, and we've seen that before when they've had Austin, who was the target man for weeks leading up to the Royal Rumble, him winning it and things like that. So it does kind of make sense, but I suppose the joy of a Rumble though is you never can really know what's going to happen. So whilst you can have a really good guess, there's still 29 other ways that the story might end up going.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think maybe 2000 is the exception to the rule. It was bloody obvious The Rock was winning that no matter what, wasn't it? Really.
Even though he shouldn't have actually won it because his feet touched the ground.
Yeah. So even though it was really, really obvious what was going to happen, they still botched it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The pay-per-view has a really great beginning for me, and then something that was a bit disappointing that I remember looking back and being disappointed about, because it starts with this great little intro package of a camera kind of spanning across and catching different memories and bits of commentary as it spans across this whole scene with clips on and so on, which then progresses into quotes from the modern competitors talking about entering the Royal Rumble. And then we hear Jim Ross's voice basically saying Mr. Perfect, Val Venus, The Godfather, and there was somebody else, Goldust, I think it was, are returning for the Royal Rumble. And I remember thinking, okay, so if those were surprises, that's a shame that was let out of the bag.
Yeah, and especially when you look at Mr. Perfect, who was essentially drafted in for a one and done, and ended up putting on such a good show that he got a contract out of it. One of the best things about the Royal Rumble is those surprises, is the returns, and to kind of have that telegraphed by Jim Ross, it puts a bit of a dampener on it. But it kind of also then leads into how they book a Royal Rumble and how they promote a Royal Rumble nowadays, because you want to get as many people watching it, so they kind of give away who's going to be in the Royal Rumble now, which is a shame, because the best part is the surprise, who is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of big surprises, I guess, AJ Styles and Edge's recent return at the Rumble. Those are the two, I think, that I sat there and didn't know that was happening for either of those. And that really made me go, wow, that was incredible. And I think about those moments, especially the Edge one. If that had been ruined, there's that word again. Okay, cue everyone in the chat. If that had been ruined, that is a disaster, because that is such a great moment, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it would take a wrestling fan with a heart of stone not to get emotional about that Edge comeback, because he was one of the guys who one more match and he could be spending the rest of his life in a wheelchair, but fought his way back, got second opinions, really kind of worked on his physique and made his way back. And it was an emotional time, and having that ruined and promoted beforehand, he would have absolutely killed it. Having that ruined and promoted.
Sharon in the chat there, brilliant.
But for me, the last massive surprise though before that was the AJ Styles one. I mean, I knew he'd left New Japan, I knew he'd signed with WWE, but I didn't know he was going to debut so quickly. I mean, this was like a couple of days after it was announced that him and Shinsuke had signed for the company, and then he's turning up at the Royal Rumble. Yeah, what an amazing moment.
Yeah, so good, man. So good. Something else I liked about this Rumble is the stage setup and the little clock they have in the corner. The circle,
that is something I noticed as well. That was cool. The little kind of the light going round the Royal Rumble along the edge of the gold clock and the countdown. I know over the last few years they've tried to kind of cut the clock out, and the fans have just done the countdown anyway to essentially make them bring the clock back. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And if you saw on the kind of wide pan, the clock was actually on the big screen as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a cool thing.
And it was a circular big screen as well, wasn't it? Which made it work even more. Yeah, really cool look, really good looking set and so on. And the laser lights as well. This Rumble, that was the lasting memory I have from the stage set, is the round clock and the round countdown screen. But the laser lights, because they've used laser lights before and since, of course, but these seems to be set up quite differently. And especially when we get to Triple H's entrance, it just looks fantastic. All these beams of light shooting out into the crowd and so on. It's the first time really I can remember seeing something that well done, just with lighting alone.
It was almost like a pop concert.
Yeah,
with how it was set up, and I think it was the way the entrance was slightly raised above the ring, so you could see it really clearly on the camera. They've had some pretty awful Royal Rumble entrances. There's the one that was about 18 miles long, and the wrestlers had to essentially run all the way to the ring.
Yeah.
I prefer the shorter ones and the ones where the hard cam is facing the screen, so you can see the video package come up on the Titantron, and you see the fans' reactions. I always remember the
Madison Square Garden, that doesn't it?
Yeah, like the John Cena return, absolutely amazing moment, and this with Triple H and the pyro and the laser lights. I mean, even Goldust got pyro. It was really well done. Yeah, I really like this stage setup.
Yeah, totally. I mean, speaking of Goldust, then he's in the beginning too, isn't he? I guess. I mean, one thing I did notice as well from the very start of the match that made me realize how much I miss it is Howard Finkel running through the rules, and every year you'd sit there with like, okay, yeah, all right, come on, Howard, get through it all, like Jerry Lawler was saying, but it was part of the whole thing, wasn't it? Him running through the rules and listing what was going to happen and so on.
Jerry Lawler, I thought that was a very quick, witty line from him saying, come on, wrap it up, this match is only an hour. But I just want to circle back a little bit to this was the time when WWE had the New York restaurant, and just before we got to the Rumble, they had a cutaway to Shawn Michaels, who was there live at WWF New York, wearing that very American, very Texan shirt. But what kind of put a smile on my face was this was clearly a point when he didn't know he was coming back to wrestling, because you can kind of see the pain in his eyes that he's missing it. They mentioned about him winning 2 Royal Rumbles, and you can see they're asking for his predictions, and I think he predicts that he'll either be Undertaker or Stone Cold Steve Austin. But you can see there's a bit of, I wish I were there. I wish I was in that. 7 months down the line, the guy's going to come back, and he's going to end the year as world champion. So yeah, it's a lovely kind of look into the future and seeing just how upset and sad he was that he couldn't wrestle, and then you give that 7 months and he's gonna be back, and he's gonna be having the run of his career.
Yeah, bloody fantastic. That second run of Michael's absolutely fantastic. Yes, we have Rikishi as number 1, Goldust as number 2 to start the match. Obviously with Rikishi, there's lots of setup and angling towards his arse, isn't there, with the stink face and so on. But this kind of confused me a touch, because one of the things that happens here is Rikishi is stood above Goldust, slapping his arse like he's just going to sit down on him, because Goldust has tried a sunset flip. Why would you try a sunset flip in a Royal Rumble match?
I mean, I get it, but there's been loads of times where they've tried pins. I mean, I remember Macho Man tried to pin Yokozuna in one Royal Rumble and got flicked over the So I suppose it was just to set up the attempt at being squashed by Rikishi's big fat ass.
Some gargantuan buttocks.
He has got a huge ass.
It is a big chunky butt. We have effectively what you tend to find with Royal Rumbles, or what I tend to find, is that if we don't have some real big names out first, like the year that we had The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels out as 1 and 2 and so on, you tend to get a lot of mid-carders first, building up to that first sort of higher level performer, don't you? And that kind of stands to reason here. Our first few entrants are the likes of Rikishi, Goldust, the Boss Man, Bradshaw, but he gets a massive crowd reaction. Bradshaw is the biggest that I granted he's only number 4, but it was the biggest of the Rumble up to that point, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think this was a Rumble. Like you said, it started with the lower level, lower mid card wrestlers. So it tends to build to a ring full of wrestlers for the first big star to come and clean house, and that's kind of what we got. Very much in the Austin 97 Rumble where he cleans house, does the same again in 98. We were going to get to that point. Kind of like how we had with a Rumble a couple of years ago with Brock and Drew, where Brock cleaned house, and then we kind of like got a second Rumble, if you will. This is what happened in this one. We got to essentially The Undertaker. He cleaned house. Once his part had gone, we built back up and then went towards the end.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I suppose the earlier part of the Rumble, there's not masses worth touching upon, really, other than some of the ovations that some of the guys get until the Undertaker enters at number 8. And he does clean house, as you said, Magsy. I'm not a massive fan of the Undertaker short hair and this sort of time, but here with the beanie hat on, riding the bike, Limp Bizkit playing, he looked like a badass, didn't he?
He did. This is not one of my favourite versions of Undertaker, but it's up there. I'm an American Badass fan, but Dead Man Inc. was certainly one of my favourite versions of the Undertaker.
Yeah, definitely. And even though he is supposed to be a heel at this point, people still cheer for the guy, don't they? He still gets a decent response from the crowd when the music hits and he comes out on the bike and that.
Yeah, it's just a cool image. Just when he started riding the bike down to the ring, it's cool as fuck.
Yeah, and rolling, playing in the background as well. Like, yeah, just great stuff. Great stuff. Taker clears the ring then, literally just clears the ring, and he stood there waiting for the next entrant, I suppose. Similar, I get, again, like you said, Maxie, to Lesnar in the Rumble quite recently, just waiting for each new entrant to come down. And we have Matt Hardy come in next. And I remember this when it happened, and at the time I thought it was so cool because the Undertaker had basically just destroyed everybody. He'd beaten up Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, and even Lita, but they all effectively get a few kicks in on the Undertaker right here,
especially Lita.
She's having a great time.
Undertaker had destroyed him, put him on the shelf for a while. So Matt comes out first with Lita. Looks like he's going to get his ass whooped, but then Lita gets on the top rope and then essentially jumps into what was potentially going to be a double choke slam. Undertaker kind of throws Matt away because he wants to deal with Lita first, and she kicks him right in the baby makers. And Undertaker did a brilliant job of selling it. You could see him like jumping up and down, bouncing. So that gives Matt the opportunity then to essentially beat on the Undertaker. And then Jeff Hardy comes in next. So it's kind of like 2-on-1, 3-on-1. Don't last long though before Undertaker. I think he catches Jeff doing the whisper in the wind thing.
No, it's the poetry in motion, isn't it?
Poetry in motion. That's right.
When he runs across and jumps off Matt's back, it meant the Undertaker can almost like catch him like he's cradling a baby in a way.
Yeah,
and just flips him out. It's quite cool.
Yeah, just tosses him out. And then last ride to Matt, lobs him out, and that's that bit done, essentially.
Yeah. Yes, and then we get probably the moment that most people remember from this Rumble, I think. Even more so than... I remember this even more so than the finish. Because Maven comes out, who had just recently won the first season of Tough Enough. Now, Tough Enough ran for quite a few years, then disappeared, came back in a slightly different format, and so on. What are your thoughts on Tough Enough, Mags?
I think it quickly got stale. I think if Maven, and I think the other winner was Nydia in the first season, if they'd have been bigger stars or been made into bigger stars, I would have probably been more excited for future Tough Enough episodes because we have a similar thing in UFC. We have something called the Ultimate Fighter, But what happens there is that those the winners of those tournaments are able to carve out a career in UFC by winning matches. Obviously, with wrestling being scripted, that would have meant Maven and Nidia being pushed to the moon. And I think whilst he did do well in the hardcore division, he wasn't, and I think he had a shot at Triple H's world title at one time. He wasn't really pushed that much, which kind of made it made Tough Enough look like they're creating C-level talent. So I kind of lost interest in it pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's fair enough, mate. That's fair enough. I think the first season, I was all about that. I loved it because I suppose it was the novelty of it.
Yeah, it's fresh and it was new.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of reality TV. It's not something for me. But I remember the very first season of Big Brother. I watched all of that intently because that was something new. I've never seen it before. Second, third season, I was over it. But I think it was the novelty of it. I think, and it was so different to what it became in a few years' time as well with Tough Enough. And we have Scottish Danny in the chat there saying that Maven's theme song is an all-time banger. That was the theme to Tough Enough, wasn't it? It was the theme to the first, But which we don't get here. It's overdubbed here.
It is,
which is such a shame.
You'd think, I mean, they would own that unless it was a Jim Johnston production, and they've cut a lot of his music out. So unless that was an issue, and I think the thing with Tough Enough, especially the first season, was it was almost like a peek behind the curtain for a lot of fans. I mean, this was an era where we knew it was scripted, but the guys are still athletes. The guys are still have to train, and this was kind of like a way, if you haven't been in the wrestling world, of seeing what it's like behind that curtain, how you get into wrestling. So I think that was a cool novelty of Tough Enough, but it soon got boring. I mean, I can't think of any other Tough Enough winners aside from, was it Daniel Puder, the guy who almost broke Kurt Angle's arm with a Kimura? Aside from that, the Tough Enough winners, I can't remember a lot of them.
Johnny Nitro was on Tough Enough, wasn't he?
Was there? I know Ryback was on.
Hennigan.
Ryback was on I think the second one, the one what Daniel Puder won. I think Ryback was involved in that one. That was when it was called Ryan Reeves, I think.
Right, okay. There's a few that you know, if you actually look at the list, it's like, okay, that's where that was from. Mandy Rose as well. She came through Tough Enough, didn't she?
Okay.
One of the much later seasons, I think.
Was not aware of that.
I think so. I could be completely wrong there. Scottish Danny will probably pipe up in the chat. He'll know. But yes, Maven is out next, and he's looking very concerned about getting in the ring with The Undertaker, as he should be, because it looks like his ring gear is just a pair of jogging bottoms from Primark. I think he should make a bit more of an offer there.
From
Primark.
where?
Primark.
Primark.
Is that how you say it up north, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that...
I do words good.
I know words. Yeah, Primark, yeah. That's how I say it. Down here, I think everyone calls it Primark down here. It can't be just me.
It's Primark.
That's what I said, Primark. Primark. Not
Primark.
Primark. Okay. As Maven is entering the ring, though, and starts getting it slapped around a bit by The Undertaker, the Hardys come in, and because they're pissed off with this fella, and they just go and they're attacking him again. Taker cleans house with those again, gets rid of him, and then he kind of takes his eye off the ball, Magsy, and leans over the top rope a touch.
Yeah, to bollock the Hardys for coming in the ring, and basically this was the era where it was his yard, and then Maven, who has one of the best drop kicks in wrestling, really, that guy can get some heart on a drop kick, eliminates The Undertaker, and that's the highlight of his career. It's the thing that we're always going to remember him for. And I know James from That 90s Wrestling Podcast had Maven on for his first interview in like a decade, and they have a real good breakdown of the situation of how it led up to Maven being involved in the Rumble. He was only told on that weekend that he had to be be at the show, knowing that it was going to be in the Rumble. Then he said Vince and Undertaker had him for a chat. Oh no, Shane and Undertaker had him for a chat, and they ran through kind of what his role would be. He assumed it would be in the ring for a few minutes, then get eliminated. Shane said, "So you're going to be eliminating the Undertaker," and he says he was there terrified because Undertaker's a huge guy. He was still a rookie, and he looked at Undertaker, and Undertaker looked at him and he went, "Oh, so that's how it's going to be." So Undertaker's trying to put the wind up him, scare him to death. He said, but afterwards, the Undertaker was so good to him. He said the guy made my career with what he did, and the way he kind of like beat the living piss out of me. He said it made me way bigger of a star than I should have been at the time. So yeah, it just goes to show how much of a rub he got from this point.
Yeah, definitely. And the beating is quite dramatic, isn't it? I mean, first of all, Maven's dropkick. Why? That is a fantastic dropkick, isn't it? Let's be honest.
So good. Yeah,
and the Taker comes back into the ring, chases Maven around, and I like this because they're kind of stumbling as the Undertaker's trying to get hold of Maven, and it looks realistic. It doesn't look like a wrestling predetermined bit of entertainment. It looks like Maven is genuinely terrified, and the Undertaker genuinely wants to kill him, which is the point, isn't it? It's supposed to look realistic.
Yeah.
But there's a vicious chair shot here, though, isn't there?
Well, before we get there, we get the point of this that has annoyed me for 20 years. Maven gets thrown through the ropes. Now, we know, first of all, Undertaker is out, so he should not be allowed to eliminate people. Now, we have seen people sneak back into Rumbles and eliminate people, but this was in full view of the referees. They've always done it when the referees have been distracted. This was in full view of the referee, so he's thrown through the ring, beat up on the outside, hit with a brutal chair shot, and that may be the one of the worst chair shots I've seen Taker given. I've watched him hit Chris Kanyon square in the face with a chair shot. But he then throws Maven back in the ring to throw him over the top rope, and I, from what I've read, I think Undertaker was told by the referees, you have to throw him over the top rope for it to look like an elimination. But the rules are that Taker has been eliminated, so he can't eliminate Maven. So Maven has been the longest ever Royal Rumble entrant because he's still in this Rumble right now to this very
20 odd years, yeah.
Exactly, and it annoys me.
Something I noticed today as well, and again, if I've got this wrong, then please, people, let me know in the chat, Magsy, or via Twitter later on in the week or whatever. But I don't know if it's because I'm older and I notice things more now, but you can see the Undertaker blading Maven. When he's down on the thing, and then the Undertaker turns away and tucks the blade back into his pocket. Because obviously Maven not as experienced, I'm assuming, so that's why Taker did it for him. But yeah, the Undertaker is the guy who, for want of a better term, gets colour for Maven, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, he also interrupts Scotty 2 Hotty's dance to the ring.
That was brilliant.
You could see how he was. I think Scotty may have missed his mark because obviously he was getting really into the dancing, and you can see Taker like, where the fuck is he? So Taker actually just goes out and catches up with him, wallops him, and then goes right back to beating up Maven. It's a brilliant moment.
It is
brilliant.
We end up going up through the crowd and then through, I suppose, the arena, I guess, the corridors where you'd find like the merch stands,
the concessions and stuff like that. And
yeah.
The low-key heroes in this segment was those security guards keeping those fans away because those fans were rabid. There was one point just after Maven has had his head smashed through a popcorn stand. The fans are in his face screaming and like spilling drinks all over him. Yeah, that was pretty scary, and those security guards were having to work very, very hard to hold those fans back. But what a moment! That made Undertaker look an absolute killer, and it also made Maven look like a proper babyface. It was a really good moment.
Little touches as well, isn't it? Little touches. Just as he's led there, Maven bleeding and destroyed. Taker just takes a handful of the popcorn. So cool.
Eats the majority of it. One of them lands in between his tits. One piece of popcorn, and then he's get one piece that he doesn't chew. He just spits it out, and it lands on Maven. Brilliant.
Yeah, class. Absolute class. But then I suppose we're into the second half of this Rumble then, or the second story that this Rumble kind of tells. And that is very much motivated by who is going to WrestleMania now. We've had the Undertaker half of the story and so on. It is very much divided into two, this Rumble, I think, Mags, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a classic way to do a Rumble. Have a one big star, do a clear up, and then once they've gone, kind of fill the ring again for who is going to be the eventual winner, or the kind of like the pathway to finding out who that winner is. So yeah, it's and this is why it's one of the better Rumbles, because it's booked really well. It's it flows really well as a Rumble. I think.
Yeah, you're right. You're spot on. I suppose we get now very similar to the first 5 or 6 entrants in the Rumble. We kind of reset and start again, because we're getting the guys who appear more regularly on the lower end of the card, shall we say, the likes of Christian, Diamond Dallas Page, Chucky Palumbo, as JR refers to him as quite a bit. They're all coming into the ring. Then we get the Godfather entering to a massive ovation. His music hits, and he keeps going back and getting more and more girls like with him. That was cool. That entrance was great.
Yeah, it was. And fun fact about the Godfather's ring attire: so he was wearing the snakeskin suit and those snakeskin pants. You've seen another wrestler wear those exact same snakeskin pants before, one time.
Okay.
So The Undertaker faced Kurt Angle at Survivor Series 2000.
Okay.
And he wore those exact pants. And the reason that they're exact pants is because his bag got lost by his airline. And the only person who had pants who would fit Undertaker was Godfather, and that's his actual suit. So for one match and one match only, Undertaker wore those exact snakeskin pants.
Oh, that's amazing. I did not know that. That is brilliant.
Look it up.
Ah, that is superb. What a great little fact that is. Let's see. Chain wrestling, educational. Sort of. Diamond Dallas Page gets a good reaction from the crowd as well when he makes his entrance at 14. I quite like Page. You know, the whole WCW era against the NWO is great. This silly, smiling, motivational speaker kind of thing. It took me a while to get on board with that, but when he ended up feuding with Christian, and Christian was having tantrums and so on, I think it really worked at that time. Yeah,
and if you look at Page now, I feel that this was closer to what Diamond Dallas Page is actually like. Because he is very motivational. The amount of wrestlers and people whose lives he's saved due to his outlook on life and DDP yoga and stuff like that, I feel that this is maybe closer to the real Diamond Dallas Page than perhaps the WCW gimmick.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All this is built. Well, eventually the Godfather does get eliminated, which is greeted by a load of boos. People were not happy that he was gone. However, this segment of the Rumble is building up to the arrival of Steve Austin, and when the glass breaks and Austin comes in at number 19, as tradition, when you hear that noise, the crowd go crazy, and it's just a great visual. Him stomp into the ring with a waistcoat on and literally walking into a battle zone with all the people in the ring, dumping his waistcoat on the way in, kicking everyone's ass, chucking out a load of stunners, and then just eliminating everyone. It's brilliant.
Eliminating everyone with enough time to bring people back in to stun them and eliminate them again, to make sure, to double down that they got eliminated, and he was still this was heavy into the what gimmick, and he was using his wrist tape as a watch, kind of like a throwback to his the WrestleManias, the Royal Rumbles that he'd won, where he cleaned up and then he was sat in the corner looking at his fake watch on his wrist. Some good little throwbacks, and then we get Val Venus coming to the ring, and that looked awkward. You've got Austin, who's a very kind of masculine man, stood there in the middle of the ring, and then Val Venus essentially stripping off and doing the towel gimmick at the top of the ramp. It felt a little bit, and knowing what Val Venus is like now as a person, very conspiracy theorist and very into his wacky tobacco. Yeah, it felt a little bit cringy.
Yeah. He'd used far too much baby oil, I think, backstage, hadn't he? He was very.
But the female fans absolutely loved him.
Well, this is true. Test soon follows Val Venus, and that basically gives Austin something to do for a little while before he eliminates a couple more people. And then we get the moment I suppose everyone's been kind of waiting for since that 7th of January Monday Night Raw.
22.
The guitar hits, Motorhead blares over the speakers. The laser lights here are just green beams crisscrossing, and the silhouette of Triple H just stood there as the music plays. And everyone's thinking, Triple H and Austin's the only one left in the ring. This is going to be an awesome stand. And the way WWE do this, I think, is fantastic, because the entrance for Triple H just gets you more and more built up, ready for this confrontation. But the entrance also means that he's ran the clock down enough that you only get a little bit of it. So it's not like...
tease.
It's not, you don't get exactly what you're after straight away. I think it's really cleverly done, Mags.
Yeah, and it would be easy to forget that Triple H's last match, he was tag teaming with Austin, and we had that whole are they on the same page kind of story, which was going to eventually lead to them breaking up and having a feud. So the potential of them, are they still friends? Are they not still friends? Are they going to end up beating the living piss out of each other? And also being two of the biggest stars in wrestling. And now being on opposite sides of the babyface and heel like world of wrestling. This was going to... this was a massive tease to what could have been a huge moment. And WWE played it so well. Triple H is... his entrances are always amazing. When he wets his hair and spits that water, it just looks like a dragon. It's such a cool entrance. And then to kind of like lighten the moment, the Hurricane coming in, trying to do the double choke slam. What a brilliant moment. And he's got Austin and Triple H there in the choke slam, and they just turn and look at each other and like, is this fucking guy for real?
It's brilliant.
It is. It's such a brilliant moment. We don't fully get that kind of Austin versus Triple H war that we could have got, but we got teasers of it, which is enough. It was enough to kind of whet people's appetites.
Yeah, that's right. Eventually, the Hurricane, as you said, he gets eliminated, and Jerry Lawler screaming, "He's flying!" as he goes sailing over the top rope. Lawler, a lot of the time, Lawler's cringeworthy, and we've criticised him a great deal on this show with some of the stuff he says and does and so on. But on this show, I don't think he was too bad. I think he actually added to the product rather than, sometimes when we've watched things back, it's been a case of, oh, mate, no, this hasn't aged well. But here, I think he did all right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Farouk is next out, but he's kind of skipping past him, maybe a bit unfairly, because we then get Mr. Perfect come into the ring. That music's fantastic. Perfect looks cool. He does the towel thing where he throws it and catches it behind him. And then I didn't notice this until watching this time. There's one moment where he's up against the ropes in the match wrestling, and he spits his gum out and slaps it with his hand as well. Yeah, it's just so cool.
It's just effortless cool as well. Effortlessly cool. And one thing that kind of gets glossed over as well is this is his first appearance in WWE for like 6 years.
Yeah.
Before this, his last storyline was actually with Triple H. He was he was stealing Triple H's valets every week, and that was meant to lead to a blow-off match where he was facing Triple H, but he ended up leaving the company, citing injury, but obviously then going to WCW. But yeah, it was for me, who knows the kind of like that backstory, because we've covered it on a change in attitude. The tease of him versus Hunter was always there for me. And again, kind of like the Austin thing, we see snippets of it, but it doesn't build into anything notable in the match. But yeah, what a cool moment it was to see Perfect there. And like I said earlier in the show, it was supposed to be a one and done, just like a surprise entrance, just to essentially get his flowers. But he puts in such a good performance with the very few minutes that he has in this ring. I mean, he earned himself a contract, essentially. He earned himself another mini run in the company, which is superb, until obviously the plane ride from hell went and kind of ruined it for him.
Yeah, he was a bit of a bell end on that plane ride.
He certainly was.
Yes, he was indeed. The last few entrants, Magsy, I'm just going to list off the last 5 who enter the Rumble here after Perfect, okay? Because this is one hell of a last... I don't remember a Royal Rumble having a group of wrestlers in the last 5 or 6 as this. Obviously, Mr. Perfect that's just arrived. We then get Kurt Angle, The Big Show, Kane, Rob Van Dam, and at 30, Booker T. Now, you remember, of course, Triple H and Steve Austin are in the ring as well. Has there been a Rumble with a better finishing group than that?
So that last 5, all world champions.
Yeah.
All of them. Just, yes. It shows the level of talent in this era of WWE. No wonder this was a huge money-making era for WWE, because that is stacked. And we've had like the mid carders all the way through the beginning, the middle of this Rumble, but to kind of like pile all the big stars at the end. What a brilliant move that is. Especially with Triple H being in the ring, Austin being in the ring, the 2 biggest favourites probably to win the match, to throw then 5 huge stars in, that kind of can put the doubts there. Like, any one of these would have looked legitimate as a Royal Rumble winner. So it kind of does take away that predictability, I suppose. Yeah,
very true. I mean, a couple of cool moments, I suppose, as we come to the finish. Kane eliminating the Big Show, I thought was really impressive.
Just by picking him up and dumping him over the rope. Brilliant.
That's so simple, but it was brilliant, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
I think it was Austin, wasn't it, eliminating Booker T after a spinner Rooney?
Yeah.
It's like, why would you do that in the middle of the ring, mate? Come on. Look what you've gone and caused yourself now. You know, it's
RVD doing the Rolling Thunder on Austin. That was, and I think he does the 5-star splash on Angle.
Yeah,
RVD in
some talent, man.
Yeah, RVD in his few minutes gets so much action in. You can tell that he was always going to be a big star in WWE, and the rest of the talent and the guys in the back thought a hell of a lot of him, because he comes out of this looking really, really well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our last 4 though are Perfect, Triple H, Austin, and Angle. And it's good to see Mr. Perfect in the last 4. I mean, that's not just name value, but that is some actual in-ring talent in that last 4, isn't it? And we lose Austin.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a, whoa, okay. I thought, I remember at the time thinking, wow, Austin's gone. Wow, okay, Austin's gone. That's insane. And for some reason then I started to really believe 20 odd years ago that Mr. Perfect was going to WrestleMania. I was fully behind Mr. Perfect. At that exact moment I was like, come on, you can do this,
I don't think I did then, and I certainly didn't. Obviously, knowing the result, I knew we weren't going to do it this time. But it was yeah, it was shocking to see Austin be that person. You look at those four and think Mr. Perfect's the fall guy, yeah, because the other three were deep into the kind of like the world championship scene. So one of those three winning it made sense. But I suppose it was so Austin could kind of like cement his heelishness with going out, getting a chair and laying waste to all three of them. Plus, it gives them all a bit of a breather whilst they're all laid out on the floor.
Yes, indeed. He wastes them all with a chair, doesn't he? And then basically Triple H effectively then gets rid of Mr. Perfect, and we get the final two.
Well, before that, we do get Perfect to get his flowers. He does a beautiful Perfect Plex on Angle.
I love that move so much.
And then I love his kind of front flipping snapmare as well. That's such a good move. But yeah, Hunter eventually does eliminate him, and then we get the final two, Kurt Angle and Trips.
And it ends up being a finish, I suppose, for the Rumble or Battle Royals at least as well, that we've seen quite a few times, I guess. I mean, we've seen it with a couple of Royal Rumbles, and I imagine people have gone to indie shows and seen this God knows how many times with Battle Royals and so on, where the one guy thinks he's won. He's thrown his opponent over the top rope, turns around, arms in the air to celebrate. Same in the same way 1995 with Shawn Michaels and the Bulldog, I guess. Angle even drops to his knees to celebrate this victory as Triple H pulls himself back into the ring. Basically, Angle then twigs what's going on, takes a face buster, I believe it is, onto Triple H's knee.
Yeah.
And gets clotheslined over the top rope.
Then the very telegraphed stumbling towards the ropes, which if you were in a Royal Rumble and you got hit and you were a bit wobbly, you drop to the floor because the floor is the safest place to be. But no, Angle, best lead up against these ropes, and Triple H just clotheslines him out, and the crowd went ballistic.
Yeah, and I suppose that was it. Mission accomplished for the WWF, isn't it? You know, it's
such a well told story as well, and you've got to give WWE props. I mean, they don't do a lot of things right, especially recently. But when somebody's away, and especially a big star when they're away with an injury, the WWE do know how to book their returns and book their returns really well. And Triple H's return was booked pretty much perfectly, his return from injury.
Yeah, it's just a shame that the WrestleMania side of things didn't get booked as well. You know, obviously he goes on to win the title, of course. That was fantastic. But the story with Jericho, it was a bit of a stop-start storyline involving Stephanie and the dog and so on. But ultimately...
And pregnancy.
Yeah, ultimately it led to Triple H being the world champion. And then we get heel Triple H again, holding on to the world title and so on, don't we? So
we get the reign of terror.
Yeah, see, what little we knew on that night in January.
When we were all cheering Triple H, like, he's back, the best thing since sliced bread. And he was like, wait till next year when I'm a dickhead again.
Yeah. I'm going to ruin all your favourites. Magsy, out of 10... Oh, excuse me. Apologies. Out of 10, Magsy, what are you thinking?
Now, it's one of my favourite Rumbles. And for a lot of the same reasons that you mentioned, star power, the way it's booked, the way we kind of have... almost a guaranteed winner, but there's still those kind of like little niggling doubts of other people whose names are in the mix. It's not as good as 92, not as good as 97 or 98 for me. But yeah, it was very, very enjoyable. It went by really quickly as well. To say it was almost 70 minutes, it felt like a breeze to watch through. So for all those reasons, I think I'm going to go with a 7.5.
Oh, okay. Okey-doke. My mindset was to look at what we've given previous Rumbles. And I don't think this is as good as the 2001 Rumble. I don't think this is any... It's not that I don't think. I know it. This is not as good as 92. 92 is amazing. So I can't give it as the same level as those, but it's still bloody good, and it's better than I remembered it being. I could remember the Maven moment. I can remember Triple H and Austin facing off, and then Triple H winning. Everything else in between, I kind of just, I don't know, forgotten about or blocked out or whatever. So it was much better than I remembered it being. So for that reason, I'm going to touch higher than you, Magsy. I got 8.5.
Okay, that's fair.
I really, really enjoyed it, mate.
I mean, added as well. Like I said, a breeze to get through. Some huge stars in there, but also a lot of kind of like the mid carders around them. But yeah, it was cool to see some of the faces, and yeah, it flowed really well as a rumble. I think it was some rumbles can be messy, not book the best, and kind of like a drag. This I think flowed really well.
Yeah, all good points, mate. All spot on. So then, where can we go next week? A Royal Rumble, so many options. I love it when we get Rumbles on the show because there are so many options where we can go to. It's brilliant stuff. So what are you putting forward for this week's poll, Magsy?
Well, all those options, and I'm going to take the low hanging fruit. So I started my comeback on this show essentially with the Triple H injury. We've now seen the Triple H return. Let's follow where this story goes. Let's go to WrestleMania. Let's see Triple H taking on Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 18. That's a huge WrestleMania. I mean, Austin versus Scott Hall, The Rock versus Hogan. But if you look at Shagger Dave's ratings for this event, Jericho and Triple H got the highest rating of all the matches. It's a very underrated classic because it had to follow Rock and Hogan. And I think if I remember rightly, Jericho said in one of his books, he adamantly didn't want to be the main event because he knew that Rock versus Hogan was always going to kind of be the star of the show. And he basically told Vince, I don't want to be in the main event. But they did. And to a very kind of tired crowd, they put on a barnstormer. So yeah, I think I'll want to watch Jericho versus Triple H for the undisputed WWF title.
That, I think, is a fantastic option.
And plus, it wraps up this mini kind of Triple H journey we've gone on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense from that. Makes a lot of sense from that viewpoint. But also, it is a match that I've not really revisited, and I keep hearing people say it's better than you remember. So that I'd be more than happy to go back and watch that, and I think that would be really interesting to review that with you, and the CWF going back and checking out this match, because if I go back to WrestleMania 18, I'm watching Rock Hogan.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, really interesting shape. I reckon that'd be a great shape if it wins, Magsy, because I've got to put something up against it. I would like to see a bit more Mr. Perfect. He was a bit of a star in this Rumble for me. The guy is just so cool. He's absolutely fantastic. Now, we've seen on Chain Wrestling already Mr. Perfect versus Bret Hart. We've already been to that match and so on. So I was trying to think of something that is a little different, because I like looking at a match that potentially hasn't been watched since it happened, or some people who listen to the show may have never seen. And when looking through potential matches from Kurt Hennig's career, obviously I dipped into WCW and had a little look there because that's just how I work. But there was nothing major standing out there. But something jumped out at me and I thought, well, that'd be quite interesting. So Barry Windham versus Dan Griffin says in the chat here, no Barry Windham.
Mr. Perfect versus the Stalker. That's what we're watching.
maybe we'll try and angle a Barry Windham match in next week. I don't know. I would like to go to a match with Mr. Perfect facing off against one of Barry Windham's Four Horsemen teammates. And that is against Ric Flair from Monday Night Raw, the 18th of January, 1993. And this was Flair's last match in the WWF before going back down south. and it is listed on certain sites I was looking at, certain countdown sites, as being one of the best matches in the early years of Monday Night Raw, and in the top 5 matches of Mr. Perfect's career, I read. I don't know if I 100% agree with that particular author, but that would be interesting for me to see. So, yes, Mr. Perfect versus Ric Flair. Loser leaves the WWF. Monday Night Raw, 18th of January, 1993. And another little tie-in as well. It was the first episode of Raw after the 1993 Raw Rumble, which I just twigged on myself then. Didn't even realize that when I put it up, but there we go. So, yes, those are your options for this week's poll. We have tying all this Triple H storyline in a nice, tidy little bow and finishing up with Triple H versus Y2J in what has been described by so many people as an underrated classic at WrestleMania 18, or Mr. Perfect versus Ric Flair from the 18th of January 1993 Monday Night Raw. The poll will be up after the audio version is released later in the week. Make sure you chuck it a retweet and vote away and decide where we're going to go next week. That's it then, Magsy.
It is. All done.
That's it. That's it. Great stuff, mate. Great stuff. Do you want to let everyone know whereabouts they can find you online, my friend?
Well, I mean, you'll be lucky to find me online because I've taken a sabbatical from social media. I have actually replied to a lot of people over the last couple of days. And again, like I said last week, your support has been absolutely amazing. I'm blown away by everybody just showing how much I mean to them. It's just words can't express just how amazing you all are, and I really, really appreciate every single one who's reached out. And I will eventually make my way back to social media, but it's taking its time. It's a long process, but you can still follow me on Twitter at PodfatherMags or on TikTok at MagsAllPods. That's where you can find me, or you can find me back here next week on Chain Wrestling, because still kind of missing in action with the rest of the content.
Yeah, great stuff, mate. Great stuff. Already looking forward to next week, mate. Already looking forward to it. You can find me on Twitter at SJPWords, and on Facebook there's a group there, SJP, all the shows and info, and that gives you links to all the stuff I'm involved in. So that's Nitro Nights, looking at WCW with our good friend Scottish Danny, the Doctor Who pod with Dan Griffin, looking at that Doctor Who serial there, Classic Who, New Who, back and forth and so on. That season 2 is coming, I think the 14th, we said the first episode of season 2 is coming out. And then we also have the Waiting Room podcast that I do with Benny Mac, looking at Quantum Leap week by week by week, and I'm having a great time doing that as well. But most importantly, you can find this show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that TikTok thingamy at chain_wrestling. That's at chain_wrestling. And again, at SJP Words for me. Magsy, I've had an absolute blast, mate. I'm loving the fact you're back. Can't wait for next week. 2 potential classics on the poll. I'm going to be really intrigued to see which direction the CWF vote in, because I think it's quite a difficult one this week.
Yeah, I may just end up watching both, because
Yeah.
they're both really good picks.
Yeah, I might as well. I'm off now to go and stand in my bathroom and practice throwing a towel around and catching it to try and look cool, just like Mr. Perfect. Magsy, I'll see you next week, my friend.
Good luck with that. I'll see you later.